Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 47 of the Playoff Push podcast. I'm your host, Jack Dobbins, and today I'm joined by a very special guest, former Major League Baseball relief pitcher Jake McGee. How we doing today?
Doing good. Thanks for having me on.
Let's start off early on in your career. You were drafted out of high school in Nevada and then head right to the Tampa Bay Rays. And in 2008, you were ranked as the number three prospect in the Rays system, slotted between, Evan Longoria and David Price and Wade Davis, three incredible ball players in their own rights. Looking back, what was it like coming up in such a stacked farm system, and how did the level of talent around you shape your development?
It was always really cool at Tampa. They have always had a lot of prospects, and a lot of us always fed off each other. Like me and Wade Davis both got drafted in 2004. We were on a lot of teams together coming up, and we'd always push each other. If one of us went 6 innings, the other one wanted to go seven. And it pushed us a lot. And, it was really cool coming up with a lot of those guys. And by the time we got to the big leagues, we've already played together for multiple years. So,
Would you say Wade was one of the closest teammates you had coming up? Of course, both ended up being pitchers, both drafted in the same class.
yeah, definitely. All the way up, we're close friends, and then even later in a career when both of us signed with Colorado too, and and stayed in contact. We still stay in contact too. So
Exactly. Speaking of Colorado, a ballpark that's not necessarily known as a pitcher's park with the thin air and everything like that. How did that affect your pitching style, adjusting to an entirely new environment?
I think overall I looked at more of kind of my pitch movements and how it would be different there. And some of the guys were saying like it if your fastball rises like 20 inches, it's going to go down to like 15 or 5 or 6 lower than each one. So you kind of have to change your eyesight and have different locations because the ball is going to move much different, especially on breaking balls too. It moves way different, and the ball obviously flies there. So
Yeah, using that, did you look more into advanced metrics or spin rate, stuff like that, or was it more just how it fell out of the hand?
more of like kind of how it felt out of the hand when you're in the game and adjusting from there. Maybe try to pitch inside a little more. Don't let the guys get extended. A lot of times it would be a bloop and then another bloop, and the outfield's so big to where it's first and third, and they already scored a run, and you're 3 pitches in, and it can snowball real quick there.
Yeah, Coors is a huge ballpark. I believe, up there with Oakland Coliseum back when it was, still in use was a pretty wide field. Was there any field that you felt like was the best to suit your pitching style?
I think Tampa. I was talking to some people earlier in the week that the visual in Tampa, it looks like you're right on top of the hitter, and you go to the field every day, and it's the same ACs going and same everything. It's very consistent, and the Red Sox field, the Fenway, it feels like you're really close to the hitter. Same with Wrigley too, and it's really good visuals at those older ballparks.
Yeah, I mean, those ones were built, back when it was more small ball and there were less home runs. They didn't need to worry about the crazy dimensions and all the balls flying right out to the outfield. So that definitely, worked with that, right?
Yeah, big time. It changed over the years. Like the new Yankee Stadium feels a lot bigger than the older one, is what some of the guys are saying. I missed it by like 1 year playing in the old Yankee Stadium, but I heard it felt like it was more enclosed on you. But now the newer stadiums are just so big.
They are. They're absolutely huge. And of course, speaking of the Yankees, your major league debut was against the New York Yankees, and you had a very memorable first strikeout. Of course, future and now Hall of Famer Derek Jeter. What was it like to strike out a guy of Derek Jeter's caliber for your first career punch out?
I was very nervous. It was my first outing. The night before, the Rays walked it off, and we took the lead in the AL East too. And they threw me right in there with first and second, and 2 outs. And I walked a couple of hitters and looked on deck, and Derek Jeter was standing there, and I was like, "Oh man, I really got to tighten it up here." So when he got up, I threw a first pitch curveball and then a couple of fastballs and struck him out. And very memorable first out and first strikeout in the big leagues.
Did you have like a certain approach when it came to that pitch selection, or did you just do what your catcher called?
I think I talked to the catcher afterwards, and I was a little wild with my fastball to start, so we switched it up and threw a curveball, and then my fastballs were right on track right after that. So
So, of course, you spent your career as a relief pitcher. Mainly, relievers often live in, those high stress environments with very little margin for error. How did you manage the mental demands of being a relief pitcher, one of the most mentally stressing positions in all of baseball?
Over the years, I had a lot of different mental coaches and picked up a lot of things over the years. Got to write some things in my hat here and there, and then just kind of letting go of the outing after it was done because you got to be ready the next day, maybe 2, 3 days in a row, pitching 3 out of 4. You kind of have to be mentally ready, and you can't hang on to bad games. You kind of have to let them go a little bit.
Yeah, was there any situation in relief that you liked the most, whether it be a one inning save or a 2 inning closeout or a setup man role? What was your favorite part of the bullpen?
Mine was always getting a save with a 1 run lead. It was always
Okay.
the most pressure, and you feel like if you walk the first guy, then they would try to steal second, and then you have to be really focused and make sure you make all your pitches. Especially a 1 run game, things can happen really quick.
So when it comes to comparing, your first strikeout being Derek Jeter, you also face so many other incredible ball players. You've pitched to other Hall of Famers, some other baseball legends. Who was the toughest hitter you think you ever had to face, and what was the part of your brain that made it difficult to pitch them?
I always had really competitive at bats against David Ortiz. I faced him probably over 10 times and got a couple hits, but it seems like we'd always have like 8 to 10 pitch at bats. Then a couple of righties, like facing Alex Rodriguez was always tough. And then Miguel Cabrera would always feel like he knew what you're going to throw when you're going to throw it. And he was the one guy who wouldn't try to hit homers all the time, to where if he knew you were going to throw away, he would just take a single away. I think that's why he had such a high like batting average too.
Yeah, I mean, he had the triple crown. I mean, from, Ortiz's perspective or A-Rod, they never really had that batting average clip. But Miggy, what do you have? Like a 330, 325 his triple crown year or something? It's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah. Every time we faced him, we felt like he knew what you're going to throw. It was pretty crazy.
I mean, he was like a relatively, solidly built guy too. He wasn't the speedster like a Bobby Witt or a Jacob Wilson or something like that. He
Uh,
was pretty stocky, but he still got
yeah,
on base. He hit hard. He drove guys in. He did everything
uh
he really needed to.
yeah, big time. He was a very good hitter. I'm trying to think some other faced a lot of other Hall of Fame guys, but I think I faced Jim Thome quite a bit, and I remember
Ooh.
giving up his I think his record-breaking walk-off home run in Philly. I remember that it was a long at bat. I think it was like 7 to 10 pitch at bat, and I threw a fastball up and away, and he hit it oppo out for a walk-off homer. And I always remember that one. That's for sure.
Now that's a power hitter. Tell me
Yeah.
that's just a straight. I'm gonna hit this thing 450 feet, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yep. But sometimes, like later in his career, if you hit your locations right, you'd get him out. But if you missed it, he would not miss that pitch. That's for sure.
I mean, you had an incredibly long career. You played 13 years, and that was even fighting through a pretty difficult injury report. You had elbow surgery, an oblique strains, you tore your meniscus, I believe, in 2015. Was
Yep.
there any certain mindset or even like physical practice that you think really helped you recover? Because you pitched a very long career for someone with a laundry list of injuries.
I think mine was mainly just staying on top of all my arm care and exercise and doing the rehab the right way and not rushing it. And with mine towards the end of my career, I had to learn more like the flexibility side of it and always keep my hips loose. And I had so many stretches and things like that to keep it in the moving the right way. And after I hurt my knee a couple of times, I had to wear a brace after that and pitch with that and learn and adapt in that way. And I think it's just sticking to the rehab and not trying to rush it. I think some guys would try to like rush a rehab and want to get back too soon, but later in my career, I learned you don't want to rush it, and you just got to take care of your body a little better and do all your exercises. So
Exactly. The worst thing you see is when, especially like a high school kid or a college kid needs Tommy John. They try to rush it. They're like, I need to get back to raise the draft stock, and then they get hurt again, and that's it. That's the worst thing that can happen.
yeah,
So
big time. No reason to rush it at all because if you stay healthy and do what you're supposed to do on the field, you're going to play a long time.
exactly, and you did play a long time. Made your debut, I believe, was 2010.
Yeah, 20 September 14th, 2010. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so right there. And then in 2020, you flipped teams. You went to the Los Angeles Dodgers during the COVID year. And after a couple of rough years before that, you turned it all the way around, throwing to a 2.66 ERA and playing a key role in the bullpen to push the Dodgers to that World Series win. What clicked back for you that season, and how did the revival feel?
It was great because when I got looked at by the Rockies, I knew Brandon Gomes, who I played with in Tampa, and I knew Andrew Friedman from Tampa too. And I remember I got let go by the Rockies, and I sent him my videos for within like a couple days of pitching in Colorado because it was 2020 and we were pitching at our stadiums. So I sent over a couple videos, and they said right away, they're like, "Oh, we have a couple things to help you out. We have some trainers who can get your hips right and your knee right and get your mechanics back to where I was." So I was all in on that one.
Was there anyone on that Dodgers team that you think really like motivated you to, go back to the pitcher you were just a few years prior with the dominance?
It was actually some of the assistant pitching coach. He had this thing called
Oh,
the clean fuego, and he noticed my hand was getting a little more on the side, and I was losing a lot of vertical on my fastball. So he's like, "This is one of the tools that can help you a lot." And right when I went over there, he had me throwing with that every
wow.
day, and it helped a lot. And I was able. They put me in really good situations to succeed too, and they're really good about scattering ports and putting me in the right pockets of the lineup to face the right guys. And had a really good year.
Whew. What was it called though? You said clean fuego?
Yeah, clean fuego. It's like almost like a little puck thing, and it
Okay.
helps you get your hand a little higher. I actually worked
So
with
more to like adjust like the release angle or
no, so like sometimes your hand will get on the side a little bit, and the clean fuego will help it
oh,
get behind it a little more.
gotcha.
Yeah,
So to propel forward on the release.
yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
And I assume that stuff like that tied back to since your retirement, you launched performance pitching out in Reno, Nevada. What do
Mm.
you hope to instill in this next generation, especially among young southpaws, based on what you learned in the majors?
I have him throw with a clean fuego. He sent me a whole bunch of them, like a care package of them, and then a lot of like arm prep and exercises in that way because that helped me a lot early in my career. Tampa Bay made all of us do that and stick with the program, and I think a lot of the young kids kind of don't do that a lot. So I'll help them out with a lot with that, and then the older guys, the college guys, I help them out with like some of the pitch design and things like that. Just a good foundation for mechanics too.
In terms of pitch design, is there a way that you can like see a player and be like, okay, you should throw this?
Some of the kids who I've worked with, even we have the TrackMan. So there's a kid yesterday where his two seam moved much better than his four seam. So I told him to throw more two seams than four seams because a lot of guys, if you realize that you're more a four seam guy or two seam guy, and how the ball moves, you want to stick with that because if you're throwing four seam and it's not moving much, you see guys who throw 100 miles an hour and get hit really hard. It means their ball's not moving really well. So
Yeah, I mean, you were, of course, a left-handed pitcher, which there's a lot more righties than lefties. And what someone who doesn't watch baseball as much doesn't really understand is the difference between being a southpaw and being a righty. What would you say is some advice that you could give to left-handers coming up, through high school and even in early college to really set themselves apart from the grain?
I think just being good at getting lefties and righties out because a lot of over the years it was only like lefties can only get left-hand hitters out, but now for the lefties, if you learn how to pitch inside the righties a lot, it'll help you out big time. Because if you try to stay away, the righties will just lean over the plate and try to hit you the other way. So,
Sounds good, because my best friend is a lefty going to college to play ball right now, so I figured I had to ask that question too.
yeah, I think if you can establish throwing into righties really well, that's probably one of the hardest pitches for lefties to throw is that glove side inside the righties. And if you can locate that in there, it opens up the rest of the plate.
And also, one more thing I had to ask about, your personal part of your baseball career. I never really knew you with a nickname. I never
Mhm.
really associated a nickname with you. However, there is one nickname listed on Baseball Reference, and that is Mac Cheese.
Yeah.
My question's going to be, how on earth did that come up? Because I have never heard that until I was preparing for this interview.
There's it kind of evolved like in the minor leagues with playing with like Wade Davis and a couple of guys like Matt Walker and Reed Bricknack, a couple other guys, and they just instead of calling me my normal last name, they'd say Mac Cheese all the time. I think it referred to me like throwing hard too. I always threw really hard there, so Mac Cheese. Then when we had the you were able to like put your nicknames on your jerseys
Oh yeah, Players
Oh, that
Weekend.
was,
Players
yeah, the
Weekend.
Players Weekend.
They need
Yeah.
to bring that back, man. I've been waiting
Yeah.
for that. I've
Yeah,
been
I have
waiting
that
for that.
jersey in the garage with it. It says Mac Cheese on
There
it.
was so many great ones. Like there was Corey Seager that way he wore Kyle's brother on his
Mhm.
back, and there were so many. They need to bring that back.
That was really cool. Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
I
That was a
miss
while
it so much. Bringer of Rain for Josh Donaldson, all those.
ago.
Oh man, when will they bring that back? I totally forgot about those jerseys.
Yeah, that was really cool when they did that.
Whew. All righty, do have one final question for you, and that
Yeah.
one's going to be looking back across your 13-year career, 6 teams, multiple surgeries, a World Series ring with the Los Angeles Dodgers, doing your coaching work. If you could pick one single moment to define your baseball journey, what would it be?
Um, that's a good question. I think when I in 2011 when I made the team out of spring training, got sent down in May, and then worked on everything and got better. And then when I came up the day after the All Star break, they're like, it might be short, but it might, if you pitch well, you might stay longer. And kind of undecided. And then we drove all the way to Florida, and I was like, we're going to stay this time. And I remember we were playing a 3-game series against the Red Sox. I pitched the first game, I think, with a bases loaded against David Ortiz. In the second game, like first and second against Pedroia, got him out. And then the third day, I think there was 2 guys on against JD Drew, and I got him out too. And then I was like, oh man, I'm getting sent down, because usually back then you throw 3 days in a row and you're a young guy, you get sent out. And I did well those 3 days in a row, and they kept me up, and I never went back to the big leagues after that outing.
That's like the Hydra of Boston right there. Ortiz,
Mm-hmm.
Pedroia, and JD Drew he wasn't the other two, but he was still a great player in his own right. That must have been
Mm-hmm.
terrifying.
Yeah, I was like, all right, if I get out of these 3 games, like hopefully I stay. I feel like I proved myself, and I never got sent down after that game, and very fortunate for that.
Wow. All righty, everyone. That's going to do it here for episode number 47. Your number in Washington of the Playoff Push podcast. Jake, thank you so much for joining the show. I really appreciate it. Any final things you want to say?
No, thanks for having me on, and appreciate it. And hopefully the next one goes great.
Of course. Thank you very much. Everyone listening, thank you for tuning in to episode number 47 of the Playoff Push podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Jack Dobbins, and have a great rest of your day.